copy you passed. You actually passed, not a small test, not the kind that comes and goes in a single hard day. The kind that runs across months and seasons and costs something real every single day it continues. The kind where the passing is not dramatic or loud but quiet and interior, and happens in the accumulation of 1,000 small choices to keep trusting when trusting was the harder option. You passed that test. And tonight, at the hour when heaven speaks most clearly into the lives of the people it is preparing to crown, God himself is going to do something over your life that the entire season of testing was building toward. Stay right here, because what is coming tonight and in the days that follow it is the specific response of heaven to a person who endured what you endured and came through it still standing, still faithful, still oriented toward God. Do not scroll. Do not skip. The full picture of what passing means for your life is what this message is going to reveal. Something is being placed on your life that was not there before this season began, not because you earned it through perfect behavior, not because your performance was flawless, but because the test you were in was specifically designed to determine whether what God placed in you was real enough to hold under pressure, whether the faith was genuine or only functional in comfortable seasons, whether the character would remain when the circumstances gave it every reason to change, whether the love was deep enough to keep giving when giving from empty was what the moment required. Those were the questions the test was asking, and the answer your life gave to every one of them was yes. Stay with me. Do not move. The specific revelation of what the crowning means and what it releases is still ahead. I want to be honest about the test before we talk about the crown, because glossing over what you actually went through in the rush to celebrate the passing of it would be a disservice to the reality of what this season cost you. The test was not theoretical. It was not a spiritual concept that you engaged with in the abstract while your circumstances remained comfortable. It was embedded in the actual fabric of your daily life, in the specific situations that required faithfulness, when faithfulness was genuinely costly, in the specific relationships that required patience when patience had been worn down to almost nothing, in the specific financial and practical pressures that required trust when the evidence for trusting was very thin, in the specific moments of loneliness and misunderstanding and delayed arrival that required you to hold on to a hope that the circumstances were not supporting. You were tested in the places that actually hurt, not in the places where it was easy to be strong, in the places where the possibility of breaking was real, where the option of walking away from the faith, from the trust, from the belief that what God promised was still coming, was a genuine option that looked increasingly reasonable as the season extended. Those were the moments the test lived in. Those were the moments where the real question of who you are was being asked. And those were the moments where your answer, imperfect and sometimes trembling but always ultimately faithful, built the case that heaven reviewed before making the decision that this message is about. Do not scroll. Archangel Michael says stay right here. The word about the crowning and what it means is still being assembled. Do not miss it. I want to explain what a crown means in the spiritual sense, because the image of a crown carries cultural weight that sometimes obscures its actual meaning. A crown in the spiritual realm is not primarily a symbol of status. It is primarily a symbol of completed testing, of demonstrated character, of a life that was given a specific assignment and a specific set of trials designed to develop and verify the character required to carry the assignment, and that came through the trials with the character intact. A crown is what heaven gives to someone who was tested at the level of their actual assignment and did not break. The crown being placed over your life tonight is not decorative. It is functional. It carries authority, specific authority that was not available to you before the testing was complete, because authority of this kind can only be legitimately held by someone whose character has been verified at the level the authority requires. You cannot carry genuine spiritual authority in areas where you have not been tested and proven. And the areas where you are being crowned tonight are the areas where your testing was most concentrated, where the pressure was most specific, where the proving was most costly, and where the character that emerged from the proving is now the foundation for the authority being released. This is important. The crown is not placed on you despite the hard season. it is placed on you because of it. Because the hardness of the season was the specific hardness required to produce the specific quality of character that the specific crown requires its wearer to have. And you have it now. It was built in the fire, and it is real. To receive what Archangel Michael is releasing over your life right now, go to the comments and type "I pass the test." Let that declaration be the agreement between your spirit and what heaven is confirming in this moment. Do it now and then come back. The specific dimensions of what the crown releases are still ahead. Let me tell you what changes after the crown. Because the season that follows a genuine spiritual crowning is categorically different from the season that preceded it. Not because life becomes effortless, but because the nature of what you are carrying and what you have access to and what heaven is investing in your life changes in specific and practical ways that you are going to feel and see in the coming days and weeks. The first thing that changes is your authority in prayer. The prayers of a person who has been tested and proven at a specific level carry a weight in the spiritual realm that the prayers of an untested person in the same area do not carry. Not because God plays favorites, but because authority in prayer is connected to authority in character, and authority in character is connected to what the character has demonstrated under pressure. You have demonstrated faithfulness under specific pressure in specific areas, and the prayers you now pray from those areas carry a specific authority they did not carry before. You are going to begin to notice this. The quality of response to your prayers in the areas where the testing was concentrated is going to shift. Things are going to move that did not move before, not because you are commanding God, because you are now praying from a place of proven character and proven faith, and heaven responds to that with a specificity and a consistency that produces visible results. The second thing that changes is your influence. The crown that is being placed on your life tonight carries influence that extends beyond your immediate circle. There are people who are in the middle of the test you just passed, people who are in the specific season of difficulty and pressure and extended waiting that you just came through. And they need someone who has been where they are and come out the other side, who can speak to their situation not from theory or from the outside, but from genuine first-hand understanding of what the season actually requires. Your voice in those spaces is going to carry something that no amount of education or training can produce, the authority of someone who was in it and passed. And the people who encounter your voice in those spaces are going to receive it in a way that shifts things for them, because they will feel that you know, not that you learned, that you know. That influence is expanding. The spaces where your voice is being heard are widening. The access to people who need what you carry is increasing, and the fruit of your influence in those spaces is going to be one of the most visible evidences of what the crown released. The third thing that changes is your protection. A crowned person carries a different level of spiritual protection than an untested one, not because God was uninterested in protecting you before, but because the testing season required a specific kind of exposure to pressure that the post-testing season does not require. The testing was permitted because it was the mechanism of the proving. Now that the proving is complete, the specific exposures that the testing required are no longer necessary, and the covering that comes with the crown is a covering that was not in place during the testing, not lighter, heavier, more complete, more specifically protective of the areas where the testing was concentrated, because those areas are now areas of specific authority, and heaven protects what it has made authoritative. You are going to notice this protection in the specific ways that the season before the crown was not protected. Situations that would have gotten through before are going to be deflected. Opposition that would have landed before is going to find no purchase. The specific attacks on the specific areas where you are now crowned are going to stop producing the results they produced during the testing season, because you are not in the testing season anymore. You passed, and what passes a test moves forward into a different relationship with what the test was testing. Do not scroll, do not skip. The word that is going to change how you carry yourself from this moment forward is still coming. Stay until the very end. I want to speak about 3:33 because the hour matters, and the reason it matters is worth understanding, not as superstition, as the language that heaven uses to mark specific moments in a person's spiritual timeline. The hour of 3:33 is the hour of divine completion in the watches of the night. The number 3 repeated 3 times is the full expression of what the triune nature of God does when it acts in completeness. Father, Son, Spirit, each represented, each fully present, each fully invested in the moment being marked. When heaven moves at 3:33, it moves with the full weight of everything it is, not a partial gesture, not a preliminary signal, a complete act, a full release, a total investment of heaven's presence and power in the specific event occurring at that hour. What is happening tonight at 3:33 in your life is a complete act of heaven, a full release of what the testing season was building toward, a total investment of God's presence in the crowning of a person who demonstrated through everything they went through that they were ready to carry what the crown carries. It is not a symbolic moment, it is a real one. And whether you are awake at 3:33 tonight or sleeping, the spiritual reality of what is being released over your life at that hour is not contingent on your consciousness. It is being done by heaven, and heaven does not require your awareness to act. It only requires your openness to receive what was released when you become aware of it. This message is part of your becoming aware. The word being spoken to you right now is preparing your spirit to receive what is being released at the hour of completion, opening the channel, clearing the space, aligning your expectation with what heaven has already decided to do, so that when the evidence of the crowning begins to arrive in your circumstances, which it will, you receive it fully and without the confusion of not understanding what is happening. Something is being released tonight, something real and specific and complete, and this message was sent to make sure you were ready to receive it. I want to talk about what the crown looks like in your daily life, because spiritual realities that do not translate into practical daily experience remain abstractions, and what is happening tonight is not an abstraction. It has specific and practical implications for how your daily life is going to feel and function in the season ahead. The crown is going to show up as a quality of clarity that was not previously available. Decision-making in the areas where you were tested is going to become cleaner. The noise that surrounded those decisions during the testing season, the confusion and the doubt and the competing voices and the uncertainty about direction is going to reduce, because the crown carries with it a specific certainty in the areas where the testing was concentrated. You are going to find yourself knowing what to do in situations that previously would have produced extended confusion, not because you have new information, because you have developed through the testing a direct and clean relationship with the truth in those areas that confusion can no longer easily interrupt. The crown is going to show up as an ease in relationships that were previously strained, not all relationships, the ones that were tested specifically in the season that just passed. Some of those relationships are going to shift in ways that reflect the shift in the spiritual atmosphere around them. The specific tensions that the testing produced, the places where the friction was most concentrated, are going to find resolution in ways that the testing season made impossible. Because the testing season required the friction to produce what it needed to produce, and what it needed to produce is now produced, the friction can release. The crown is going to show up as a specific and practical increase in provision, not immediately in all areas, but in the areas where the testing was most connected to material and practical need. Heaven does not complete a testing season and leave the person who passed it in the same material condition that the testing produced. The testing created specific lacks that were part of the test. Carrying the lack with faithfulness was part of what was being tested, and the passing of the test releases the specific provision that the lack was the absence of, in a timeline that is now beginning, in amounts that are proportional to the duration and the depth of what the testing required. Stay right here. The final word of this message is the most personal and the most important. Do not scroll, do not skip, stay until the very end. I want to address something that you have probably been carrying for most of this season that needs to be addressed directly before you step fully into what the crowning releases. The question of whether the testing was fair, whether what was required of you was proportional to what you were given to work with, whether the specific combination of difficulty and duration and the specific lack of obvious support that characterized your season was a reasonable test for someone in your position, with your resources and your history and your level of faith. It is a real question. and it deserves a real answer rather than a dismissal that spiritualizes away its legitimacy. The honest answer is that the test was sized to your assignment, not to your comfort, not to what you felt capable of at the beginning of it, not to what would have been reasonable based on your assessment of your own resources, to the assignment, and the assignment is large, larger than what you have yet been able to fully see. And tests that are sized to large assignments are large tests. They are not large because God is cruel. They are large because what you are being prepared to carry requires a character that only a large test can produce. The size of the test was confirmation of the size of the assignment, and the passing of the test is confirmation that the assignment is yours, and that you are ready for it, and that heaven is now releasing it into your life in the expanded form that the passing makes possible. The question of whether it was fair has an answer. It was proportional to something you have not yet fully seen. And when you see it, which you will in the season ahead, the proportionality will make sense in a way that it could not make sense from inside the testing. From inside the testing you could only see the cost. From outside it, looking back from the vantage point of what the crown releases, you will see the purpose. And the purpose will be large enough that the cost, while real, will be understood as worth it. Share this message with someone who is still in the middle of their test and who needs to know that the testing has an end. Someone who is carrying the weight of a long, hard season and needs the encouragement that the season is producing something that has a specific completion point. Someone who needs to be reminded that what is being built in them through the fire is not being wasted, that heaven does not test what it does not intend to crown. When you carry this word for others, Archangel Michael carries your breakthrough forward. Subscribe to this channel so you never miss another word released through this space for your season. What is spoken here is specific to people in specific seasons, and you want to be in position to receive every word that carries your name. My beloved child, you stayed until the end. Through this whole message you received what was being released over your life, and in receiving it you did something important. You opened the channel through which the crowning is going to flow into your awareness and your circumstances and your daily life. You prepared your spirit to receive what heaven is releasing tonight and in the days that follow. You passed the test. Heaven reviewed everything. The choices you made when the choices were hard. The faithfulness you maintained when faithfulness was costly. The trust you held when the evidence for trusting was thin. The love you gave when giving from empty was what the moment required. The prayers you prayed when prayer felt like it was reaching silence. The mornings you got up and tried again when the previous day had given you every reason not to. All of it was reviewed. All of it was weighed, and the verdict was not close. The verdict was clear. You passed. And tonight at the hour of completion, at the hour when heaven moves with the full weight of everything it is, the crown that was prepared for the person who would pass this specific test is being placed on your life, not symbolically, functionally, with the full authority and protection and clarity and provision and influence that the crown carries, released completely into a life that earned it not through perfection, but through the specific quality of faithful endurance that is the only thing that could have produced it. Receive it tonight. Whether you are awake at 3:33 or sleeping, let your spirit receive what heaven releases at that hour. And when you wake, and when you move through the days that follow, carry yourself as someone who has been crowned, not with arrogance, with the quiet, settled authority of someone whose character was tested at the highest level their assignment requires and did not break. You passed. Heaven crowned you. The season ahead is the expression of everything the testing season built. Walk into it, fully, without apology, without the smallness that the hard season pressured you toward. With everything the crown carries, and everything the season built, and everything heaven has declared over your life in this moment. It is yours. It was always going to be yours. And now it is time.